Hot Flashes and Cool Topics, everyone. Today we are going to have an amazing conversation with Stacy London, who many of you may remember as a stylist to the stars. She was the co-host of What Not to Wear, but surprisingly, she has pivoted her career and is now CEO of the State of Menopause. And we can't wait to hear about this journey. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you because I loved What Not to Wear. I loved watching that show. So when I saw you actually, you were kind of beta testing in State of Menopause when we first got in touch with them. And then all of a sudden you were CEO. So can you, I was like, whoa, which is great. And we love when women in midlife take control. They see something and they're like, I'm going to do this, because if we wait for someone else to do it, it'll never get done.
So, well, Colleen, I actually think you kind of hit the nail right on the head. I think that for the last 5 years, there have been, circumstances that have kind of kept me from doing what I had normally done, which is television for 15 years before that. And, I've been pretty transparent about my health struggles and having had pretty extensive spine surgery, only to, really rehab that back and have my dad get very sick and pass away. And so in a lot of ways, I felt very cut off at the knees, just in terms of my life circumstances. The thing was, I also was not really aware that I was experiencing incredibly difficult perimenopausal symptoms. Had no idea. Nobody had told me. There was no way for me to connect the dots. It didn't occur to me because I didn't know what menopause looked like. I thought, very similar to like millennials and Gen X. I'm like, Judi Dench is menopausal. I don't know who's menopausal. And I joke around very much about the fact that I'm like, menopausal women, like, we walk among you. We look just like you. And, a lot of what we are experiencing, we don't share out of shame and really not understanding what perimenopause and menopause looks like, even post-menopause. And, we talk about like how cute it is to get old, but we don't really talk about aging. Nobody likes to age. And I actually think that menopause and aging are conflated a lot of the time, which is part of the problem. We look at aging as something that is, there's a lot more positive sort of reframing around aging than there was before, but it's hard to kind of reframe menopause without thinking about it being hard. It is hard. And to say that it isn't is sort of almost to condescend to the women who are going through it. Like, I know that what you're experiencing is hard. It's one of the reasons that when State of Menopause was part of another company, I was friends with the founders and they asked me to beta test the products. Now, these were not your typical beta testers in that there were 100 of us and we co-created the products with the brand. So the idea was really not just to have a focus group and ask what somebody would want, but to actually force us to try all of the products in every iteration, and to come back with feedback, even the packaging, even, the way things were worded. And so I started off as a very enthusiastic beta tester because I didn't know anybody else who was talking about it. I didn't know anybody else who was explaining to me why I was feeling what I was feeling. And it was a real relief in some ways. But the more that I got involved in beta testing, the noisier I got about the company and where it was headed and who they were talking to and what their approach was. And when they decided as a parent company to pivot away from consumer product goods, they wanted to make sure that State of Menopause didn't disappear, because very rightly so, it's a company that's needed. And because I probably should have been a spokesperson for the company in the first place, they came to me and said, why don't you just take it over? And so originally my feeling was, I can't do this. I'm not a CEO. I don't have an MBA. I don't know what it means to run a company. I have a lot of experience in brand creative direction, and I obviously have a ton of experience as a stylist, but I'm not a CEO. Right. That was my initial reaction. And also, I think it was this idea that Oh no, I'm a personality. I do things on television, or I do interviews, or whatever it is that my preconceived notions of myself at that stage were. And because of the pandemic, and because we all had a lot of time to sit with ourselves, I really started to think about, like, well, what is it that is the true thread throughout my career, right? I've already had two careers. I was a magazine editor, and then I was a television presenter. I've always been a style expert, but what does that mean? Like, I don't care about clothing the same way that I used to. I also don't believe in rules the same way that I used to, because we evolve, right? And we've certainly evolved between 2002 and now, when What Not to Wear first started. So what is it that is underneath all of that? What is the truth for me about what I want to do? And the truth is that I've always cared about people's sense of their selves, their sense of self-esteem, their sense of self-acceptance. And here was the opportunity to reach the same kind of audience that I was reaching in television in a very new, perhaps more effective way. And when I went out a couple of years ago to do the rounds and talk with networks, streaming channels about, hey, I want to do something about transformation in midlife, they told me it wasn't sexy. They told me that, there wasn't going to be an audience for it. And first of all, I was like, you guys are insane if you think that that's true. Who do you think is watching television, first of all? But second of all, it made me feel like they were basically saying, you're past your prime. Whatever you did on TV is fine, it's good, but you don't, we don't need you anymore. And in some sense, one, I was like, well, what about Ellen, and what about Oprah, and what about, there are lots of women in middle age and older who are still thriving on television. But what I think that they were really saying is that, this subject matter isn't sexy, in the sense that it's not culturally relevant the same way the Kardashians are, or the same way influencers are, now that we have, technology and social media. But so I really had to think about, well, okay, I can either, pivot in some different way. I can do a YouTube channel. I can do all these things, none of which really appealed to me, because it was the same issue that I had with television. It was not an interactive conversation. And what this brand means to me, what it allows for me to do, is not only engender conversation and interact with people. Like, you can reach me at heystacy@stateofmenopause.com if you want to talk to me directly. But part of this is that this entire conversation, both around aging and around menopausal symptoms, which again, I think are two very different things, are things that I want to talk about, because I had my own aha moment. I had my own moment of, not only is this what I want to do to relate to other people, the way that I relate to people best is by telling my story, is by sharing my truth, so that other women can share theirs, other people can share theirs. And this company meant so much to me, not because I was a beta tester, but I had an actual hand in making these products. So proof of concept was already there. I know that they work. And that for me was the starting point. As a spokesperson for brands in my previous career, I was a spokesperson for Pantene, for Lee Jeans, for Woolite, for Dr. Scholl's, all products I used before I ever became a spokesperson, because I won't get behind something that I don't believe in or that I don't use. So this was just one step further than that. Instead of saying, like, yes, these are products I've already used, these are products that I helped to create. These are products where my feedback was absolutely taken into account. And now I can steer this ship in the direction that I want it to go, which is not from your traditional CEO, brand builder, executive perspective. It is from the perspective of a true consumer and someone who is in the middle of an existential crisis about what to do at this stage of life. And part of it was the vanity of, but I am this, I used to be this. And instead of saying, well, what if I just said, I can become something else? What if I say, I'm going to come to this as I am and not who I was. And I'm going to bring all of the experience and knowledge that I have about what I've done to a completely new situation that allows me to grow as a person and allows me to connect with people in a completely different way.
I think right now all of our listeners are doing their and nodding their
shaking
head.
their head like me. Yeah. But
Preach.
yeah. But I was reading your bio and just about how you said 5 years ago, they were telling you it's not sexy and no, it won't work. And it's like, nobody wants to talk about it, that it's happening, and how you also have said, you didn't know what was happening to you. And I didn't know what Terry was.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Talk about your own personal experience? Because I think it's very relatable to the rest of us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, the first thing, again, as I said, there were external circumstances that I thought were creating some of these problems, not physiological circumstances. So obviously, I will never forget, I had my spine surgery in December of 2016. In 2017, I got my period twice in 1 month, and I haven't seen her since. She just left the building, or left the body, left the uterus. I don't know. She just left. And that's when I started to notice, like, my skin was always itchy. I couldn't drink enough water. I was always dry. Everything was like, and I started to feel my mood was very unstable. I would get angry very easily. I was anxious all the time. And, part of that I thought is, my body just went through really, like, anything to do with your spine, your brain, your heart. When you have surgery, your body thinks that it's dying. So there has to be a psychological component to that, right? You're in survival mode. So that's what I thought was causing some of it. And then my dad got sick, and my dad was not only my biggest cheerleader, I was his biggest fan. And the grief associated with watching him get so sick and then passing away, I thought that was causing my insomnia. But then I started to have like what I thought was like the anxiety sweats, right? I didn't realize that what I was having were true hot flashes, or as my friend's mom calls them, power surges. But I honestly didn't know what was happening. And the thing is, to have all those things happen at once while you are already dealing, in my case, with the grief of what was happening to my body, in terms of having to rehabilitate my spine, the grief of having to lose my father, it started to make me realize that the grief of not wearing where I was going with my career. I did not realize that all of those things were being amplified by the loss of estrogen in my body and my hormones. And so, and I hate to talk about it, in terms of just hormonal health, because I think that through this patriarchal lens of we have in society, we're always considered hysterical women because of our hormones. But look at what we can do because of them. We are more empathic. We are more compassionate. We can have babies. We make life. We do all these incredible things that obviously, and again, not all women are able to do this. So I don't want to be insensitive to that. But just that we are constantly put in that hysterical category because our hormones affect us in such different ways. So this whole journey started to happen for me while I was already dealing with difficult things, to recognize, to have a company come to me and say, hey, if your skin is, feeling this way, it's probably because you've lost 20% of estrogen since you stopped getting your period. What? What are you talking about? And the thing was, I didn't even think to ask my primary care physician. I didn't even think to ask my gynecologist why. Like, sex was the last thing on my mind. I was like, whoa, I can't even believe I ever even liked sex. These were things that I felt like a completely different person. And here's what I think is so interesting, is that two things can be true at the same time. And where I've never been sort of more confident in my age and experience, I felt completely invisible because I did not know how to discuss these symptoms with other people, even with my friends. And I felt culturally irrelevant, not because I wasn't on television, but because there weren't people around me talking about this stuff. So, there is this sense of never having been more yourself and never having been less yourself at the very same time, which is incredibly confusing, right, ladies? I mean, like, there's no getting around.
Top it off.
How
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but even deeper than the symptoms, I think, is the psychology that comes with the symptoms, which really does, we always talk about women over 40 feeling invisible, blah, blah, blah. Like, we know that. But part of the reason that that is so has nothing to do with age and everything to do with our hormones, and feeling embarrassed about, like, peeing in your pants, or, having headaches that come on for no reason, or having vaginal dryness or breast tenderness or cystic acne. And if nobody is telling you these things are happening for a reason, you feel that blank crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't curse, just
thank you for the blanks there.
Yeah.
And that's how I started to feel. And the thing is that there is the two things at the top level of this that I always talk about are the loss of identity and the loss of agency. Right? That's what happens to people with menopausal symptoms. And I just want to say, as much as I talk about this in women who are 40 to 60 who come to menopause, let's say, because of age, there are all of those people who come to menopausal symptoms not having nothing to do with age. So whether that's radical hysterectomy or endometriosis or premature ovarian insufficiency or gender transition, we are not talking about how difficult those menopausal symptoms are on top of the original health issue. And so this is a much bigger conversation than just aging. Aging is one part of it. And understanding that if Beverly Cleary is going to die at 104, at 51, I don't have any excuses to stop living. It is time to let go of who I was and become who I am. And that is very much the mantra and the mission of my company. But also this idea that there are not a million, but there are a lot of other reasons that we come to menopausal symptoms, and yet there's no information surrounding them. And, I've talked to women who have had radical hysterectomies or breast cancer, and nobody told them to expect that they were going to be thrown into perimenopause. No one told them what to expect. And, we have books like What to Expect When You're Expecting, but why don't we have any books on what to expect when you don't know what's coming? Mm-hmm. And I even hate to phrase it in that way, because we shouldn't be talking about it like, oh, get ready for what's coming. Like, hell is upon us, or, it is what I say. Menopause is hard, but it isn't hopeless. And the idea that there needs to not just have a conversation that normalizes this experience, we need to go a step further and talk about optimizing this conversation and this experience and celebrate it for what it is. Because we're talking about all the shame that nobody needs to have anymore around getting their period. What about not having any shame around not getting your period? What about all the money you're saving in tampons? You can buy earrings. Think about it this way. And, look, I think that part of it is that nobody is coming to this with a sense of humor. I think that a lot of companies, it's not that they want to be relatable, but they're not relatable in a way that to me necessarily works when you are syrupy, right? I mean, it's not a Summer's Eve commercial, guys. Like, let's talk about what this is, and let's have a little bit of humor about it. I mean, the only thing I want dry in menopause is a martini. God damn it! Yes. And, and I don't know why I don't know why that's so.
Taboo.
Taboo.
Yeah, it's so taboo. And also that we're not more irreverent about this stuff. I mean, hard stuff is hard. There's no question about that. But there are ways that we can get through it. One, as a community, and two, in our friends and our circles of friends, that allow us to do this in a way that makes us feel seen and heard and respected, which I think a lot of companies tend to almost condescend to the way that we're feeling, which for me is unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. It's not what I wanted.
We completely agree with you. And had someone told Bridget and I that we would start a podcast 2 years ago, I mean, our podcast is 1.5 years old, but if someone had sat down and said, oh, you two are going to start a podcast about midlife women, we would be, the only experience we have is that we are midlife women. We had not had, we were not in.
That's all we need. That's all we need.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. That's reason enough. And this idea that that youth is prized so much, right? Whether you're talking about consumers, who do you want to capture? Well, we want millennials, or we want Gen Z, or whatever. It not only does it completely overlook the fact that like Gen X boomers have so much more money that you should be marketing to them anyway.
Right.
It really, this idea that there is an expiration date on your value as a consumer it's idiotic to me. And anybody who is our age, who's a consumer, has every right to be spoken to with respect and with dignity, and really with a kind of reverence for what that we've already experienced. And this is, again, also why I find it really important to talk about multi-generational mentorship, because what I am able to bring to the table is not what a 25-year-old is able to bring to the table. And a 25-year-old might be able to like schedule a Zoom meeting faster than me, but growing up with a phone in your hand, you may not know how to navigate your first broken heart. And there are a lot of things that we bring to the table in terms of experience that cannot be overlooked. And things like menopausal symptoms that interfere with our sense of self and our sense of self-worth have to be discussed, and not discussed. We need solutions, which is why for me, taking over a brand was the next natural step in my own evolution, in order to kind of engender the conversation that I want to have. Because it's one thing to start a platform, right? And there are some amazing women's communities that I'm so excited to be affiliated with. But it's one thing to start this conversation. It's another thing to have a conversation that you can start with an answer. And that's what our products are meant to do. We are meant to be your first line of defense and your best friend against things that you may not fully understand yet. And listen, this is all of a sudden become a very crowded space. Menopause is having its moment, but it is not a moment. It is a movement. It is not a fad. We are here to stay. And we are also here to make this easier for generations that come after us, which is why it is so important not just to talk to women in their 30s and 40s. It is important to talk to anybody who could experience menopausal symptoms, either because of health or gender. And I think it's really important that we don't talk about menopause as this heteronormative experience. That is not what younger generations expect from us. And we need to learn from them the way in which we discuss these kinds of physiological changes, because their race and gender are a very different construct for younger generations. And for us to ignore that is to ignore the way we want to optimize this conversation.
Absolutely.
It's so thought-provoking what you're saying. It really is, because I think that it's beyond time for our generation to break the taboo of midlife and menopause and everything associated with it. If you can't say the words vaginal dryness, really, I mean,
exactly. I mean, if you can say erectile dysfunction, you can say vagina.
You can say that. You can say it.
Exactly. Yes. And we have spoken to so many doctors that say, the drop in estrogen not only obviously changes all of the hormonal balance in your body, but it also gives you this sense of disconnect from a lot of the nurturing and need that you had before. And that's why you feel this transition to kind of want to go into a different journey, a different direction. And so many women are saying in their late 40s, early 50s, I want to do something new. This isn't because I'm an empty nester. This isn't because I stopped my last career. I want to take to the table every experience that I have before and carry it forward, so that the next generation takes for granted that these conversations are the norm.
This is possible. And listen, ladies, Gen X, we are a generation of glass ceiling breakers. So if anybody's going to do this, it doesn't surprise me that it is falling on our shoulders to do so. And that is really, again, and also aside from the fact that a lot of people want to pivot at this age, right? There is some truth, I believe, both physiologically and psychologically to a midlife crisis. I really believe that, because, if Scientific American did a study that said, I think it's women between 40 and 55, something like maybe 45 to 55. I have to double check my facts. Is the lowest point of happiness in a woman's life.
Oh yeah.
Now
the happiness
curve.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody talks about why that's so. And I think that there are a couple of reasons. I think there is secondary grief around, what women consider in terms of vanity to be the way that they look, right? Whether it's that you don't necessarily gain weight, but boy, has my body changed shape. And I have gained weight, but it's not for everybody,
so
right? It's
That would be
there's that. Right. It's like, I used to have a completely hourglass figure. I never had a tummy. Guess what? Here I am, 51, got a tummy. Okay. All of that stuff happens. And I think there is a secondary grief when your hair gets brittle or it starts breaking or you start losing hair, like all of those things that we would put under the vanity headline are not really about vanity. It is about absolute change. And when we are changing and transforming, one, we have to accept the grief associated with that, but then we also have to learn what comes out of that, how we come out on the other side of that, how we want to look at what that looks like. Once we are done with grieving, then we have to push through to find the celebration, to find the joy. And for me, that means you go through the midlife crisis to get to the midlife renaissance. And that's exactly what this pivot is meant to be about. For me, it is this company, because I never felt more lost or more misunderstood than I still have perimenopausal symptoms. Now that I can identify them, I have a better handle on them. But this idea that I have struggled both with anxiety and depression, and I did before perimenopause. So it's possible that they were exacerbated by perimenopause. But the idea that this is what is going to define me is a load of bull blank. And I really believe, I talk about this so much, but I also think that we are at this incredible moment in history, not just because of the pandemic, but the pandemic brought up so many social, racial, economic justice issues that were just beneath the surface, that now all the cracks are in the system are coming out. This is the opportunity for us to take those cracks, take that outrage, and turn this into something that is much bigger and much stronger than it was before. And ageism is one of those issues, but it's not the only one. Women's health in general has been treated as a secondary problem. Men's health gets all the attention. Doctors don't always take women seriously. Even female doctors don't always take women seriously.
Absolutely.
And my younger sister is 3 years younger than me. Well, I have two. My middle sister is 3 years younger than me. And she has been experiencing devastating perimenopausal symptoms, just like I did. And my mom had a radical hysterectomy. So we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know it was coming. And she just went to a doctor who told her to have her thyroid taken out. And I said, are you sure that that's what you should do? You're obviously in the throes of perimenopause. She goes back to the doctor. She says, I'm also really perimenopausal. And her doctor laughed at her. And I said, this is ridiculous, because the statistic that I read is that there are 2 hours of menopause training in medical school. 1 in 4 doctors does not feel comfortable talking about menopause. And you're telling me that my sister should have her thyroid taken out before consulting a menopause specialist? There is just not enough information around this. There just isn't. And this idea of the shame of it, really more and more needs to be taken out of the equation. The fact that you are doing a podcast like this, the fact that there are so many women's communities over 40 that are just, becoming bigger and bigger and bigger in size. It really does say a lot about this idea that we have to control the narrative here. I'm tired of the patriarchal lens. I'm tired of being told it's time to put me out to pasture because I don't have 25 million followers on Instagram. None of that makes any sense to me. And while I no shade towards young influencers, and no shade, we are just at this incredible moment in time when technology has changed the way that we are able to communicate, the way that we are able to reach audiences, and how everybody is their own brand, right? All of that is true. But I still think that what we're desperate for is the same thing that really all 12-step programs are based on. This idea of speaking the same language, going through the same issues at the same time, and being able to help those who come after us. That is the mission.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking about your sister. My experience, and I know our listeners will know, I was 47 having symptoms. Female gynecologist told me I was too young to be having these symptoms. And I was
that's ridiculous.
She did do my blood work and did say, well, your follicle count indicates that you are, at this. And I was like, yeah, I know who I am. I know what's going on.
Well, right. That's the thing. You know who you are.
Right. And then, other doctors we talked to, there are only about 30 menopause special clinics in this country. 30 in this whole country. And that's shocking, so shocking to me. But when you were talking about technology, thankfully, there is a lot of telehealth going on right now, even though you do need to get blood work. You do need to see what's going on in your body. But which leads me to all your fabulous products that you have, how which I have. And if you're watching the YouTube, this is one of my favorites, is your cooling spray.
Here is what I was going to say about that. Yes, we have a cooling spray. Obviously, I think that any company that is going to deal with perimenopause and menopause has to have a cooling spray. We know that hot flashes are one of the most common symptoms. But, the great thing about our cooling spray is that it is also an incredible toner. And toners are great for balancing skin pH, which, again, when you're menopausal, your skin gets very, very dry. So you can use that as a toner. But let's say you are also experiencing cystic acne, which is something that happens a lot in perimenopause. You can use our cooling gel as a moisturizer. So I use the toner and then the gel. I believe in gel-based and water-based moisturizers. They work better for me because I'm so prone to cystic acne. But let's just say, for example, you aren't prone to cystic acne, but you can also be close to, if not pre-diabetic in perimenopause, when your skin is almost like sandpaper. You can use the cooling spray as a toner. You can use the cooling gel, and then you can use the facial cream, and all three will work together to seal in moisture. So the idea is that you can do a couple of different things with these products. There are 4 categories of our products, right? We have the state of cool, we have the state of hydration, we have the state of rest and renew, and we have the state of strength. And all of these things are meant to look at menopausal symptoms in ways that make it very easy for you to utilize them, even though you can use them, mix and match them. We're not a system of care. I do not believe that there is any woman who has one brand of different products in their medicine cabinet or on their nightstand. I think we want to be your first line of defense, but that doesn't mean you're not going to mix us with your favorite other moisturizer. But we also have an incredibly rich body cream, which I love. But we also have a CBD oil, which for me was originally, it was created for muscle fatigue and joint pain, and it works brilliantly. But if you take a bath in our lavender bath salts, which are incredibly potent, so they're not your sort of run of the mill, run to the pharmacy bath salts. When you use them in conjunction with the bath salts, they really calm you. They help with insomnia. They help with anxiety in a way that's completely natural. Of course, all of our products are clean, Leaping Bunny certified, vegan, and they need to be, because that's what any customer expects from a product these days. If you're going to put it on or in your body, it better be clean. And if it isn't, I don't know what you're waiting for, frankly. But so our hydration products we have a very rich facial cream. We have a rich body cream. We also have a face oil that, again, I use that. That's my everyday moisturizer. That's it.
Bridget is showing them off to the listeners. She's picking up the bottles.
Listeners.
Exactly. The face oil is actually one of our biggest sellers because, one, it almost acts as a primer. You can use it and then put on, if you, I don't wear a lot of makeup, but if you do, you can easily mix it with your foundation. And all of our products really, I'd say one of the best qualities about them is that they absorb so quickly. So for somebody who's experiencing hot flashes or night sweats or even cold flashes, you don't have to feel sticky or icky because this stuff just goes right into your skin. And that was something that I felt very strongly about when I was beta testing the products. I was like, I moisturize in the morning and at night. If I'm putting something on my body and I get into bed, I do not want to wake up in a pool of sweat and feel like I'm in an oil slick, right? I just want something that is going to absorb. So that was very important. And then the Rest and Renew category really was much more about anxiety, fatigue, muscle fatigue, joint pain, restlessness. So we have an arnica hand cream that is, I love it, but I don't just use it on my hands. I have, my joints, my knees, my ankles. I also have psoriatic arthritis. Like that's a whole other story, but I use it in all of my like pain points. I'll put on the CBD oil, I'll seal it with the arnica cream, and it truly helps with the pain. And it helps with my ability to sleep because I'm not in pain. We also have, you were saying, Colleen, that you like the turmeric supplements.
Oh yeah, I went right through that.
Proven anti-inflammatory. We also do evening primrose. Again, we try to keep the highest quality available, which over time, again, helps with hot flashes. And, that's something that you have to consistently take. It also helps with period cramping when you start to get irregular periods. And then we have State of Strength, which is really about strong hair, strong nails, keeping the elasticity in your skin as strong as possible. So we have a biotin supplement. And then we also have a face mask that is meant to really moisturize and help strengthen the moisture in your skin, or like seal it in. And, that's just where we're starting. One of the things that I felt really strongly about is that I do believe that menopause is its own vertical. And it's not beauty. It's not wellness. It's a combination of different things. And just as you were saying, Bridget, you went to your gynecologist who was like saying to you that you are not in menopause when clearly you were in perimenopause. We need to look at beauty and wellness, whether or not, like, I couldn't take hormones. Some women who can take hormones, that's great. That can help them in a lot of areas, but maybe not all areas. So we want to look at what's medical, what's over the counter, what's beauty. And then the fourth piece of this is community. And all of these things play into the way that we create our products. I am lucky that I got to inherit a line that I know works. So from here, the way that we plan to roll out product and the way we think about product development is based on the trust that our consumer has in the products that we've made. And that's been my entire career. Part of the reason people trust me is I'll tell you when you don't look great.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm while I understand, obviously, being a CEO is different from being a spokesperson. I'm doing this because I believe this conversation, one, needs to be moved forward, and two, we need real solutions to real problems. And the ability to be able to have both this conversation and have solutions is such a unique, amazing place for someone like me to be. And to have this opportunity is, it really does feel like a once in a lifetime thing. And it doesn't mean that I won't talk about style, doesn't mean that I won't do things for television. Of course, that's like part of my DNA as well. But running this company and really being able to be not just the voice of it, but to direct the brand itself and to really connect with the consumer is what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to have the conversations that like we're having right now. Like I was talking to a good friend. Help. I need help. How do I help? How can I help you? How can I serve you? Because that's what this conversation needs to be about. And it can be fun and it can be funny, but at the end of the day, are we giving you products that work? And again, and I can't reiterate this enough, I do feel like a lot of this conversation has been started by white women. And we really need to take a look at the differences, again, just ethnically, how menopause hits differently. Southeast Asian women tend to have menopause earlier. Black women tend to lose collagen at a slower rate than white women. These are all things that should be on the table and being discussed. It is not, this is not a white rich woman problem issue. And I think that we talk about it that way sometimes. And that for me is not one, it's not forward thinking,
Mhm.
and two, we are a brand that stands for all kinds of equality in a situation that is difficult and isn't talked about enough. And certainly when it comes to women of color, their health is really disregarded.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we very much as a brand feel strongly about making sure that that conversation is at the forefront of this entire conversation.
Yes. Oh, and that's so important.
It's
Mhm.
really important because it is an issue, and not even an issue, it is a journey that every woman goes through, whether it's
Yeah.
surgically induced, through age, if we're lucky enough to live through it. We're all going to go through it. It's not a question of your race. It's not a question of necessarily your religion. Well, it's not your religion, but it's not, it's just runs the gamut. And it's
not
important.
gender,
Right.
right?
And not just gender.
Absolutely.
Right.
Trans. We were talking to a doctor about, Bridget had tried the pellets, testosterone pellets, and
Mhm.
once, and we'll never try them again.
I won't.
And the doctor,
I want to hear that story. By the way.
Yeah.
And she basically, she is very closely associated with the North American Menopause Society, and she's one of the certified specialists there. And she said, I cannot tell you how many problems have come into my office because you're being given the same dosage after a couple of years that transgender men or women, men to women, or
women
women
that
to
are
men,
transgender
excuse
to
me,
men.
transgender women to men are being given, and you're getting endometrial cancer from it. Your clitoris is growing to the size it should not be.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of issues, but women don't know that. They just think
that was not presented to me when I had it once, and I was on hormones, bioidentical hormones, and they suggested I was on a testosterone cream, and it wasn't absorbing. When I would have my blood work, it was always too low. Everything else was good. That was low. Oh, you want to try the pellets? And I was like, oh, I'll try it. And it was okay. I did kind of start to notice a little more acne, a little more facial hair. And we talked to this doctor, we interviewed a doctor, and she said, they take you back in 2 weeks later to test your testosterone levels. She said, I have people, their testosterone levels are what we give people who are transitioning.
Right.
And she said, I've seen, vulvas that are huge. And I was like, oh, that's not really what I wanted. For me personally, that's not what I wanted. So,
but you're not educated on that.
No,
right. You're not educated on that, nor is the trans community, I think, educated on what hormones are doing to them and how menopausal products can help while they're transitioning. So, the conversation goes both ways. And I think, again, we have been, I always say we're not your mother's menopause company because she didn't have one. Right. And like, that is the point. It's wonderful to have these conversations. And, we are always talking about this from the men's perspective. We're always talking about erectile dysfunction. We're always talking about Viagra and Cialis and hair loss. And, women, one, have more purchasing power at this point, and two, why are we embarrassed when they're like, I'm 80, I got Viagra, I can have 5 kids. Like, what is the stigma around being female that makes it impossible for us to talk about this, or people who are transitioning into being female? I mean, or male? I mean, whatever the situation is, when you are talking about hormonal health, there are going to be physiological symptoms that need to be addressed. And of course, at the top tier of this are women in middle age, but because we are the highest population that comes to this, right? Rather than through surgery or through gender transition. So of course, we need to be the ones that direct this conversation. I believe that. But I believe that we don't want to leave out the marginalized, because we've already been marginalized. So why aren't we bringing everyone to the table who really needs to talk about this stuff? And listen, as a brand, I think that State of Menopause originally, before I owned it, would have been very happy to stay in the skincare space, or what feels like topicals. I won't even say skincare. But I think that it's very important for us to prove ourselves as a company, because these products have already been proven to work. Then we take you to the next phase, right? And this idea that a fractured sense of products offered that are for all menopausal symptoms can sometimes feel very confusing to a consumer. You know, so we always try to think about what is the easiest journey going to be for them? What is the journey that is going to make them feel most seen, most understood, solve for one problem at a time, as long as it takes. And really, because this was such an existential moment for me, in deciding to take this company, I'm ready to devote the rest of my life to it. If that means that what we are talking about and what we start here, and all of the companies, there are at least 15 that I know of that are starting to do work in the menopausal space in different ways. That's barely enough. I mean, the need is
that's
so
only
huge.
15. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we that's a heavy lift for the 15 of us.
Right.
But I think that more and more you're going to see, one, you're going to see collaborations, because I think all ships rise together. And two, it's a different way of doing business when you've got women who are Gen Xers who were taught that there's only one first place and there's only one way to win, and it's winner take all, and all of these things no longer work, not only as company practice, but certainly for your consumer. So I feel very strongly that if we don't make something that we know is going to help you with another menopausal symptom, we will recommend it to you, whether it's a rev share or not, even if it's just my recommendation, because the bigger issue here is to serve the community, not just about being a profitable product company. We have a much bigger issue to deal with, which is that we need to stick together.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that the products, like you said, the different areas that they address, not just one symptom, but I love how they address different symptoms. But I know that I read on your website as well that you're constantly working on other things as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, we have to be. I mean, look, I am a big fan of Electra Health's 21st Century Guide to Menopause, and I think they did an excellent job. And I think if you look at those 34 symptoms, those are the 34 symptoms that we know of. And then, there are probably more than that. Then there are also the underlying health issues that, over-the-counter products can't necessarily solve for, but that we need to be thinking about, whether that's like osteoporosis or cardiovascular health, high blood pressure, diabetes, things that if we're not doing something about them now, they really will get the better of us 10 years from now. So, there's a lot of work to do in this community. And I think that products and community in this space go hand in hand. And it's one of the reasons that I'm so excited to be in it. It's because, talking to women like you and talking just in generally to feel more connected and more seen is so important, right? We just, the more we recognize each other, the more power we have to change the way things are. And the more we're able to talk amongst each other, it's like we just become this massive crashing wave. We're like a tsunami.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And it's interesting because one of the reasons why we started this platform is for the media and society to just start accurately portraying women in midlife. And we really try to support all of the companies that are seeing us as women, modern midlife women. For Bridget and I, we are happy to create that platform, but our listeners know that they won't see us on Instagram or on our Facebook book unless we're using a product, unless we really believe in it. So we want to showcase everything, give people options, because what may work for me may not work for this person, or may address. And we have both been on Instagram using State of Menopause Products. I just used it the other day when I got my second shot.
We have lotion.
I used the Arnica and it really helped. So I was like, okay, guys, use this Arnica cream, because little things like that. But it is because, like you said, we would not support or support using something that we didn't believe in. But we want to get the word out there, like you said, that it's a community. And you may try this, you may try that, but try it. It's there. If you don't know about it, you can't try it. So
exactly. Well, I mean, look, it's like, use your bullhorn to your best advantage. And I really do believe that. And it is also what I was saying before. I feel very strongly about the fact that we will help other companies where we don't excel and they do. If we are serving the same community, it does me no good not to recommend them. Because I believe that the end is the satisfaction of the consumer. The end is that she feels like she is being not just seen, but cared for. And that is the difference, I think, between the way companies used to be run, or the way men run companies, and the way I'm going to run a company.
Good for you.
Yeah. I think
Did you kind of say, okay, I'm going to buy this company, I'm going to be the CEO, and then do and go, oh my God, what did I just do? Or were you just ready from that?
Oh, no. I mean, I cry at least once a day. I'm going to be honest about that. And I will say, look, the learning curve here is a great reason. I will tell you that I truly believe in neuroplasticity. I had no idea that I could learn so much so quickly. So, if you are experiencing brain fog, I highly recommend becoming a CEO, because you have no time for it. Just get a company and run it, because, I have no time. I mean, I am literally worrying about, our investor deck, and I'm worrying about talking not just to investors, but I'm worrying about our warehouse and our product, and making sure it's all tested. And I get the products early to test them for quality and for texture. And I mean, this is never ending. Like it is, being a CEO is so hard, but at the same time, it is so wonderful to be able to be the captain of this ship. I mean, I could not do this by myself. I have an incredible team, and really, I always want to be the dumbest person in the room. So I hire people based on that criteria, and that I also very much care about my team. So, in terms of what it means to run this company, and we need to be funded. One of the biggest issues for me in that area is making sure that this team is cared for. They are investing so much time and dedication into what this mission is. They need to feel that there's time and dedication being invested into them. And every company should be run that way. Every company should be caring about the health and welfare of their employees. And that is something that I feel very strongly about as well.
I think you'd have a better company if everybody does that. You're going to have happier workers and a better company overall. Yeah.
We want to make sure that everyone knows to go to State of Menopause website.
Please come to stateofmenopause.com. Sign up for our newsletter. I am writing the first one myself. I'll probably write all of them myself until, who knows when, until I literally have no time to do it. But, I inherited a company that was started, but we're like a big mini startup. Do you know what I mean? It's yes. Like I inherited this incredible inventory and this product line, but now we're a standalone business. And so I'm starting from scratch in that way, which is also an incredible challenge for me. But there is something so exciting about it. So yes, I cry once a day, which I am totally fine with saying. And actually, I asked a friend last week if I could fire myself as CEO. And he said to me, no, sorry, CEOs only fail up, which I hope is true. But for somebody who has been a soldier, basically as a magazine editor, I worked for Condé Nast, right? As a television presenter, I worked for Discovery. To be the captain of this ship, to be the person who is asking other people to follow me into battle. I mean, this is a battle worth fighting, first of all. But second of all, the idea that I get to call the shots is a remarkable feeling of freedom at 51. It is insane to me. I'm like, why didn't I do this 30 years ago? Well, you know why? Because I was 21 30 years ago, and I wouldn't have known what the hell to do.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't time yet. It wasn't time yet.
It wasn't time.
Yeah. One of the most interesting things that Bridget and I get to do when we have these amazing conversations is just watch the journey of so many women coming into their own and kind of taking everything that they have learned and putting it together into this next exciting chapter of life, whatever it is. And whether it's someone divorcing for the, and starting their life over, starting a business that they're excited and passionate about.
No, I was just going to say, there really is something to this idea of, there are a lot of women who I feel like think that things end for them in some way at this stage of life. And, I would really reassure your listeners that you can think of this in one of two ways, right? It's like be a phoenix rising from the ashes of who you were and becoming who you are, or really truly just like emerging from a chrysalis and being a butterfly. I mean, it's so hokey, but it's 1000% true. And the fact is, the women, I have women in my life who are as young as 25, and I have women in my life who are as old as 85. And the fact is, I learned from all of them. And this idea that we're in the middle age, that term has never been used more correctly. You know what I mean? We are actually in the middle. And if we're going to live longer and longer, we got to figure out what to do with this space and this time. Well, I mean, what are we going to do? Sit around on our asses for 50 years? Come on. Like,
you won't
this
live.
is
you
the
won't
time,
live.
right?
Yeah.
This is the time for reinvention. This is the time to take chances. You don't have to be risk averse. And I am a really risk averse person, generally speaking, but you don't have to be risk averse in every area of your life at this stage. At this stage, you know yourself well enough to know what risks are worth taking. And I encourage you to take them. My girlfriend is younger than me. And one of the things is that, she has seen me really, really struggle. And, I don't have a husband, and like, she's still like, what the hell is wrong with you? So I completely agree. This idea of empathy and compassion from significant others, from friends, from family, and being able to say, here are a suite of products that I think could really help you, is so kind. And there are a lot of women who still feel very uncomfortable talking about menopause. It's part of the reason that I wanted to take it on. Having somewhat of a public persona for a very long time, I think there are a lot of celebrities who would never take this on because they're like, oh, she's past her prime. That's it. She's done. Expiration date, signed, sealed, delivered. But I do not care. I don't care what you think about whether or not I'm still sexy. I don't care. I care about the women who think that they're not. I know who I am. I care about the women who are struggling with this, who are struggling to talk about this because of shame, who are struggling to talk about this because they feel less than, who are struggling to talk about this because they don't know how to talk about the fact that they don't want to have sex. All of the things that are hard aren't impossible if we can talk about them. If we, it's like shedding light in the dark, whatever it is, if you can talk about it, it's like making monsters under the bed a lot less scary because they're not actually there.
Right. That's great. I know just different women we've talked to in different situations, whether they were almost bullied by, or made fun of by a spouse or someone, or, I'm not trying to be mean to males, but a lot of times the men don't understand this and they make fun of, and they almost bully a woman that's going through this. And then that just makes them, withdraw even more. Yeah. That's something.
Well,
even more
look, and
wrong.
I think,
yeah.
No, and I look, when men go through andropause, which is clearly not as severe, they get hair plugs and Porsches and new girlfriends and
a little blue
to
pill.
Me, right, and a little blue pill and a younger girlfriend. Whereas we're made to feel bullied and ashamed and self-loathing. That internalization has got to stop. That is a patriarchal lens that I will not stand by. And we have so much to offer and so much to give at this or any age as women. And I think right now we are seeing so many revolutions in so many different areas of the world, in so many different sectors. And this is our opportunity. Grab the gold ring, ladies, like take it, own it. And just, and see what comes from that and what that conversation can engender. And I really think that we're really off to the races for the first time for this stage, right? And it's interesting because my mom, even as I said, had a radical hysterectomy, never told me about what she was experiencing with menopause. I know women who have had suicidal ideation during menopause, and yet my mom was so proud to tell me about burning her bra. and so proud to talk about what the second wave of feminism looked like. Guess what? This is it too. This is part of reclaiming where, we are. Because maybe 100 years ago, you didn't live as long. So you got menopause and you died. No wonder nobody was talking about it. Where State of Menopause stands is that, we're here for each and every person who is experiencing these kinds of symptoms, for however and whatever reason you get there. And we're there for whatever this conversation leads to. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Oh, it was a great conversation. That's fine. I love it when we are able to just feel like we're sitting at a table talking about life for women over 40 does not end.